At the outset of the Anglo-Zulu War, the British governor of Cape Colony and High Commissioner for Native Affairs in South Africa, Sir Henry Edward Bartle Frere, and his military commander, General Chelmsford, had formulated their plan for the invasion of Zululand. The British commander intended to invade Zululand with 3 columns and converge on the Zulu capital of Ulundi. Number 1 column, under Colonel Charles Pearson on the coast, was to begin its advance at the lower drift of the Tugela River. Number 3 column, under Lord Chelmsford in the center, was to cross Rorke's Drift and advance 137 kilometers to the capital. Number 4 column, under Colonel Evelyn Wood, had to advance the shortest distance, about 121 kilometers. Number 4 column consisted of 8 infantry companies from the 13th and 90th Light Infantries, with about 1,500 men, 4 7-pounder mountain guns of the 11th Battery, roughly 200 cavalry of the Frontier Light Horse, the civilian followers of Piet Uy's and Wood's irregulars, and 300 African infantry. Number 4 column was to occupy the attention of the Zulus dwelling on the flat-topped mountains rising out of the plains of northwest Zululand. The distance of these Zulus from the capital, Ulundi, gave them a degree of independence from Cetshwayo, enabling the chiefs to withhold their warriors for local defense rather than contributing to the main Zulu army. Chelmsford required these Zulus to be distracted so that they would not interfere with the operations of Number 3 column during its advance to Isandlwana and onto Ulundi. On the 17th of January 1879, Wood established a lager at Tintas Kraal, 10 miles south of a chain of flat-topped mountains. The British invasion forces were soon in deep trouble. The British center column was decisively defeated at the Battle of Isandlwana. Hearing about this defeat, Charles Pearson's Number 1 column decided to dig in at Ishowe, where they were soon under siege by the Zulus. This meant that the Number 4 column under Evelyn Wood was the last remaining active British column in Zululand. On the 20th of March, Chelmsford made his request to Wood for a diversion, and Wood prepared to move against the Abacalusi encamped at Hlobane. At that point, Wood was aware that the Abacalusi were not his only opponents in the area. There were other forces under the command of Prince Mbeleni. On the 12th of March, Mbeleni and about 800 of his followers surprised a company-sized detachment of the Staffordshire Volunteer Regiment encamped along the Ntombe River.
Open fire!
The Zulus killed 79 men before the remaining few managed to escape. Afterwards, Mbeleni withdrew, taking with him most of the supplies and ammunition he found, and joined the Abacalusi at Hlobane. Even with Mbeleni's troops, the estimated total of 1,500 warriors on Hlobane was hardly sufficient to threaten Wood's camp, but their raiding and stealing cattle near the Zulu-Natal border was a considerable nuisance and drew strength from Wood's defensive position. Wood realized that there could be no peace to the northwest of Zululand until the Abacalusi were subdued. Mbeleni boasted of his success at the Ntombe River, but at the same time, he urgently requested that Zulu reinforcements be sent to Hlobane. Recognizing Wood's column as the greatest remaining British threat in his territory, Cetshwayo was willing to oblige. On the 26th of March, Wood received news that more Zulus were traveling to Hlobane. He decided to make a move and gambled the safety of his camp by beginning the march on the Zulus camped at Hlobane. He marched out with 156 men from the Frontier Light Horse, 40 Boer Scouts, 70 Transvaal Rangers, and 80 Cape Colony Volunteers. This amounted to about 400 mounted men in all. Also accompanying the expedition were the 277 native troops of the 2nd Battalion of Wood's Irregulars, who were mostly local recruits from the Transvaal. Colonel Wood left Kambula separately, 2 hours after the main column. He was accompanied by his personal staff, as well as his political agent and interpreter, Llewellyn Lloyd, along with several friendly mounted Zulus. Wood's plan was for mounted troops led by Lieutenant Colonel Redvers Buller to scale the eastern track to the higher plateau, supported by rocket artillery and friendly Zulu. A similar force under Major Russell would occupy the lower plateau. The two attacking parties made their way unchallenged towards their respective objectives. They would then rest for the night. On the 28th of March, Buller's force commenced their ascent of the difficult slope. The Zulus opened fire on the scaling troops. Two officers of the Frontier Light Horse fell dead. 2 troopers also fell to the fire. Wood and his escort rode to the sound of the firing. Wood spied a Zulu rifleman level his gun in his direction, and he expressed his contempt of the Zulu marksmanship. The Zulu fired, and his bullet found its mark, shattering the spine of Mr. Llewellyn Lloyd, Wood's political assistant and interpreter, who was at Wood's side. Again, a Zulu fired at Wood. This shot hit his mount. A gasp went up from his men, fearing their commander was wounded. Wood shouted a reassurance that he was not hit, and picking himself up, he made his way downhill to the troops' position. Wood ordered Lieutenant Colonel Weatherly to assault the position from where the fire was coming. Weatherly, in turn, addressed his men, ordering them forward. However, many men refused to attack, thinking it was hopeless to charge at the current Zulu position. Captain Campbell was horrified. This was tantamount to mutiny, if not cowardice. Campbell, along with some of his men, then advanced towards the Zulu position. They attacked the Zulu position, and Campbell was shot in the head, killing him instantly. The other men managed to kill a few Zulu warriors and sent the rest retreating up the mountain.
Defenders! Fire at will!
At this point, Wood was made aware of something terrible. Wood stared at the sight that confronted him on the plain below Hlobane. He could not believe what he was seeing. Approaching from the southeast was a Zulu impi numbering in the region of 20,000 men. Wood could see that they would block Buller's retreat from the upper plateau and then trap Russell. Even if Wood withdrew both groups, they would have to make a rapid retreat to Kambula to get there before the Zulu. Wood hurriedly sent a message to Russell, ordering him to move up to the neck, but with the advantage of high ground, Russell had already seen the impi an hour and a half before Wood and sent a warning to Buller. Buller realized his predicament. Turning back was impossible. The only option was to make for the lower plateau and rendezvous with Russell's force. Russell had moved his troops off the lower plateau to Intientica Neck to support Buller's troops as they descended. When Wood's orders arrived, Russell and his officers took it that Wood wished for them to take up positions on another neck, 6 miles westwards, by Zungwin. Leaving a small number of troops, Russell's force departed in that direction, leaving Buller alone at Hlobane. Buller had sent Captain Barton in the same direction earlier in the day to bury the bodies of the British dead. Knowing that Barton would be killed by this impi if he didn't move quickly, Buller sent him a message. The message reached Barton, but sadly it was misconstrued, and Barton unwittingly led the pitifully small force straight into the path of the Zulu invade. These men were swiftly overwhelmed. Buller's troops could only reach the lower plateau and a route to Campbell through Devil's Pass. Many of the men decided to dismount due to the horses struggling on the terrain. The British had the difficult task of fighting off the Zulu as they tried to make their escape through Devil's Pass. Due to the terrain, the men who were still mounted were unable to move faster than a walk. In the turmoil of the retreat, Buller banded together a staunch rearguard and contested the overwhelming Zulu numbers, which permitted the escape of a great number of his men. Despite the danger, the British were able to get off the plateau and onto the plains, where Buller ordered them to make for Campbell. British casualties had been severe. 15 officers and 110 British soldiers were killed, 8 were wounded, and 100 African soldiers were killed. This battle was a Zulu victory, but this triumph would be short-lived for the Zulus, as the very next day they attacked Wood's camp at Campbell and were defeated.
Nobody told you to stop working.